It was the year of my bigamy, and I'd taken 5 concubines for my husband. The women in the capital often mocked me behind my back. They said I was too virtuous, pushing my husband on to other women. No one knew I had another love. That young general, newly returned to the capital, would steal into my chambers late at night, kneading my waist fiercely, his voice tender and breathless. "Water, shouldn't we be together?" When talk turned to the most virtuous wife in the capital, I ranked second, and no one dared to claim first. After all, I'd only been married for less than a year, and I'd already taken 5 concubines for my husband. Others said I was foolish, eager to push my husband away. Even my mother-in-law couldn't stand it. Lately, she'd often lecture me. "You're a clever and capable woman. How can you be so muddled about this? You need to be wary of those in the back rooms. Don't let them bear a son before you do." On the surface, I was obedient, but deep down, I just sneered. No matter, I didn't love Trevor Jenkins. Compared to him, those little darlings in the back rooms were much more pleasing to look at. The concubines I found were all beautiful and kind, though not particularly shrewd. They pleased Trevor, but more importantly, they were grateful and sensible. "Madam, you've arrived at just the right time. Your pattern is only 2 stitches away from being finished. You'll surely be stunning at the flower festival in this dress. Quick, quick, the new ice cream from the small kitchen. The sisters specially saved it for you, madam." I walked into the hall, smiling as I took the bowl of ice cream. As I spooned it, I listened to their gossip. "Yesterday, my husband mentioned that the war in the northern borders has completely ended. The army will be returning to the capital today. It was a brilliant victory. The storyteller at the front tower has been swamped these past few days." Yes, all that talk of surprise attacks and interception. It was truly terrifying to hear. "So, that means young Lord Vincent will be back too?" My hand paused, my heart suddenly pounded, and the ice cream in my bowl was crushed. Dinah, who was sitting beside me, didn't notice my actions. She continued, "General Vincent is already the Marquis of Redfield Estate. After this victory, he'll hold even more weight in the capital. With his return, I wonder which lady will be so fortunate." I remained silent. My long lashes veiled the surging emotions in my eyes. Redfield Estate. It's Vincent Lowe. I listened intently to their words, my thoughts drifting back to that late autumn. I was the illegitimate daughter of a high-ranking official. After my mother passed, I was raised in the main household. The mistress was gentle and kind, with only one son. So, from a young age, she raised me as her own daughter. On the Mid-Autumn Festival, I accompanied her to the temple to offer incense. Halfway there, our carriage suddenly stopped on the road due to rain. A group of soldiers ran past, clearing the way, holding banners. Curious, I secretly lifted a small corner of the curtain and peeked out. The sound of galloping hooves approached. A man in a dark uniform galloped past me. As he approached the front tower, he suddenly reined in his horse. The horse neighed, lifting its neck. The man smoothly pulled down the red ribbon from the entrance of the front tower. He laughed boisterously and shouted to the civil and military officials following him, "Tell His Majesty there's no need for today's reward ribbon. This general has taken it himself." In his hand, the red ribbon still had a small red lantern attached. After pulling off the lantern, he looked up at the crowd by the roadside. The moment our eyes met, the lantern in his hand drew a line in the air, flying through the carriage window and landing directly in my hands. "This finely crafted trinket is for you, young lady." With that, he tugged on the reins, and his horse galloped away. I had always lived a sheltered life, confined to the inner chambers. Even handling a needle required careful attention to etiquette. It was my first time seeing someone so bold and passionate. My heart felt as if it too had torn down that red ribbon. Burning with excitement, I watched the dust stirred up by the horse's hooves on the street and heard my mother laugh beside me. That Vincent Lowe, still so unrestrained. Vincent Lowe. So, he was the young general of the Western expedition whom my father had often praised lately. After returning home that day, I often had a dream. In the dream, I too rode a horse and pulled down the red ribbon from the front tower. My mother, seeing my restless spirit, took me to the temple again to pray and fast. I knelt on the prayer mat in the main hall, but my mind wandered. I only mumbled, "This humble believer wishes, this humble believer wishes." A voice, laced with laughter, came from behind me, startling me. I quickly turned to see Vincent Lowe. Seeing that I didn't speak, he walked closer and asked, "Why have you been kneeling for so long? What are you praying for?" I shook my head, staring at his face. At that moment, I suddenly understood what I had been praying for all those days in the temple. It turned out I had been praying all along to see him again. I stood up and walked out, fanning myself. As I reached the entrance, Vincent Lo called out again. I've never believed in gods or Buddhas. If there's something in your heart you desire, then just go for it. Vincent Lo's gaze was burning, his eyes seemingly sparkling with stars. I turned around flustered and walked out. He followed, asking, "You were the one who caught my lantern on the street that day, weren't you?" My face had been obscured by a round fan that day. How did he recognize me? As if seeing my confusion, Vincent Lo smiled and pointed to the hairpin in my hair. The begonia flower. We had already spoken so much. I quickly said goodbye to him and walked towards our family carriage. As my maid helped me into the carriage, the branches above suddenly rustled. By the time I reacted, several wood hibiscus flowers had fallen onto my skirt. I turned back to look. Vincent Lo leaned against a pillar, raising the slingshot in his hand at me. Blushing, I picked up the flowers and hurried into the carriage as if fleeing. That autumn, I fell for a general I had only met twice. The spring deepened, and I kept hoping to see Vincent Lo again. In the first month, Vincent Lo moved into the house next door to ours. My father said the emperor had bestowed many lands and riches upon Vincent Lo, but he refused them all. He only requested this house from the emperor. That evening, as we ate dinner in the hall, firecrackers started crackling next door. Vincent Lo loudly called out to my father, "Mr. Zhao, come out and see the firecrackers. These are the good ones from the west. The bang lasts longer than ordinary firecrackers." My father coughed and somewhat helplessly picked up a piece of food. "Now that he's our neighbor, I suppose we won't have any peaceful days. You all go out and enjoy the show." My brothers, hearing my father's words, put down their bowls and chopsticks and walked towards next door, laughing. My father looked at me. "You go too, child. It's the new year. You should go out and walk around." I suppressed my excitement, trying to slow my steps, and walked towards the lively scene. As I reached the gates of Redfield Estate, new firecrackers boomed, shaking the heavens and earth. Startled, I recoiled, only to bump into someone. Before I could turn around, my ears were covered. The person leaned close to my left ear, slightly loosening their hand. He said, "Don't be afraid." Vincent Lo and I stood amidst the thick smoke from the firecrackers. No one noticed us. "After the new year, I'll be going back to fight in the north." "So soon?" I nodded, suppressing the sadness in my heart. "I wish you peace and a swift victorious return." Vincent Lo slipped a piece of wood into my hand. "Here, for you." The wood was rough and surprising. I couldn't quite grasp his meaning. The thick smoke from the burnt firecrackers was choking. I gestured for him to walk forward. Vincent Lo smiled and followed. Another string of firecrackers was lit. As the low sounds were about to explode, I thought I heard Vincent Lo say, "Wait for me." Just after the Lantern Festival, Vincent Lo left. I couldn't go out to see the army depart, so I could only press my ear against the wall facing the street to listen for any movement. I listened until the last faint sound of hooves disappeared. My mother knew my feelings and turned away several matchmakers who came to our door. My heart was with Vincent Lo. Whenever there was no news from the border, I would become overly anxious. After several days, my mother, seeing that I hadn't left the house for years, decided to let me attend poetry gatherings and banquets. I went out and socialized with the ladies of the capital, making many friends. The second daughter of the Earl of Longview and I became the closest. So, when she invited me to discuss embroidery patterns that day, I didn't think anything would happen. After drinking that fruit wine, I woke up to find Trevor Jenkins, the second son of the Earl, lying beside me. We were fully clothed, and nothing had happened. I hastily got out of bed, intending to leave, and at the door, I bumped into the Countess who was pushing the door open. She was followed by many maids and servants. Both she and my mother's smiles froze on their faces when they saw my flustered state. They walked around me, looked inside, and their fans simultaneously dropped to the floor. I covered my face and crouched down. It's over. I would never wait for Vincent Lo to return victoriously now. Even though I knew the Earl of Longview's family had framed me, I had no choice but to marry for my and my father's business. Heartbroken, I was helped into the bridal sedan, and heartbroken, I was helped into the bridal chamber. The second daughter of the Jenkins family hesitantly sat beside me. "Warner, I'm sorry. Mother said our family's influence in the Jenkins clan has weakened. If we can connect with the Prime Minister, we might prosper for decades." I avoided her hand when she tried to take mine. "Get out. From now on, we'll only be sisters-in-law, not friends. In the evening, a half-drunk Trevor Jenkins pushed open the door. He removed his fan and said to me in a hoarse voice, "I'm sorry. From now on, I will definitely support you, and we'll manage our lives well." I looked at the red everywhere, but I only felt as if I had fallen into a bottomless black well. No matter how I struggled, I would still have to spend the rest of my life with someone who had schemed against me. Dinah anxiously took the bowl from my hand. The stinging pain on my hand pulled me back from my memories. I looked down at my hand in a daze. I realized I had unknowingly broken the bowl and cut my hand by gripping the shards tightly. This batch wasn't fired properly. How could it break so easily? Dinah wiped my wound with a handkerchief. I pulled my hand away. "I'm fine. You all go back. I didn't sleep well yesterday, so I'm thinking of resting now." They exchanged glances, bowed, and left. I slept until dusk. When I opened my eyes again, Trevor Jenkins was reading a book on the low couch in my room. Trevor Jenkins was a man who only loved books and paintings. His elder brother would inherit the Earl of Longview's title. He held an honorary position in the Ministry of Rights, only dabbling in calligraphy, paintings, paper, and inkstones when he returned home. We were a couple united by calculation, both distant from each other. It was enough that we treated each other with respect. Seeing me sit up, he looked at me with concern. "Dinner is already prepared outside. Would you like to eat something?" I nodded and said yes. I got up and walked out with him. At the dinner table, we both silently served ourselves. Even the sound of the maid swallowing behind Trevor could be heard. "I won't be sleeping in the study tonight. I finished all the calligraphy and paintings I was finding for your father. Dinah's illness has been cured a few days ago. Husband, why don't you go see her tonight?" I smiled and poured Trevor Jenkins a bowl of soup. "Then I'll go see her." His voice dropped, no longer as light as before. I pretended not to understand and said nothing more. I endured the gossip outside and took these 5 concubines just to keep him out of my sight. It was the end of the month, time to go to the temple to add incense money. Since I married into the Earl of Longview's estate, my mother-in-law had entrusted these matters to me. I was helping the maid out of the carriage when I saw 7 or 8 soldiers standing outside the temple. My heart started pounding again. The maid by my side investigated and reported back, "Madam, it's General Lee, the head of the Imperial Guards." My racing heart settled. After calming my breath, I felt boundless desolation. I put on my veil and walked towards the main hall on the high street, pulling up my skirt. Before I had walked 2 steps, someone blocked my path. I frowned and looked up. With just one glance, I frantically called out to my maid, "Yetchen." No one answered me. My 2 maids had already been cornered at the bottom of the steps. "Whose household is the lady from?" the handsome man in front of me asked in a deep voice, his face calmly looking at me. My nails dug deep into my palms. Even though I had practiced polite greetings for our reunion 10,000 times in my heart, my throat was now choked with 1,000 kinds of shame and grievance. Unable to utter a single word, seeing that I didn't speak, he asked again, "The lady's carriage looks familiar. I wonder if we've met before." "Vincent Lowe." "What's the point of asking these things now?" I choked out. "Sir, you've mistaken me." "Sir, do you need something?" "I still need to offer incense at the temple." "If there's nothing," he suddenly interrupted me. "I want to ask the lady about someone. I met her in this temple a year ago. She was about my height, and she wore a begonia hairpin. Do you know where she is now?" Vincent Lowe took a step back, his gaze still fixed on me. She's already married now. You don't need to look for her anymore." My eyes were red, but I stubbornly held back my tears. I walked around him and continued towards the street. I hadn't walked 2 steps when I heard him loudly instruct the guards below. With a whoosh, several ceremonial umbrellas were raised below, completely blocking the maids and their own views. In my panic, I saw Vincent Lowe raise his sword and use its hilt to lift my veil. The white veil on my face fell before my eyes. I clearly saw Vincent Lowe's face. He stood opposite me, his eyes red, looking at me. "Jiao Wan, I'm back." My nails dug another inch deeper into my palms. I looked up and turned around. "You're back. You're back. Lord Vincent, you fought a brilliant battle. I wish you continued promotions and even ennoblement." I stared at the statue above and walked forward. "Don't look back, Jiao Wan, don't look at him," I told myself. That evening, after returning to the estate, the kitchen was not doing well. However, Trevor Jenkins did not return until the manor's lights were extinguished. He staggered in, completely drunk. Trevor Jenkins, reeking of alcohol, stumbled and grabbed me. pulling me into his arms. I was out all night. Why didn't you send someone to look for me? Wife, do you even care about me? Husband, you must have had important business while out socializing. How could I send someone to disturb you and offend your dignity? I gently patted his shoulder, hoping he would release me. Trevor Jenkins did release me, but the next moment, he raised his hand and flung me onto the bed. Everyone in this household, from servants to concubines, tries to please me, but you refuse to come near me, day after day. Do you truly consider me your husband? Are you hoping I'll go to someone else? Are you? Trevor Jenkins pounced on me, tearing at my clothes, startling Yetchin and the others, who rushed to stop him. Get out! Trevor Jenkins roared, sending them away. He continued to crudely yank at my collar. I lay on the bed, no longer pushing him away. As tears streamed into my hair, I spoke. Why bother? I was originally a wife you Earl's family schemed to acquire. You gained advantages from my father, and I dutifully acted as a virtuous wife in your household. Why do you need anything else? I stared at Trevor Jenkins' stunned face. Would you be happy with someone who calculated against you? Trevor Jenkins' hands completely stopped. He turned pale and rolled off the bed. He was about to say something else to me, but a knock on the door interrupted him. Dinah pushed open the door and took his hand, leading him out. My uncle from the south sent some new tea. Husband, come to my room and try it. Their footsteps gradually faded. Yetchin, her eyes red, walked in. She helped me up and tidied my messy hair. I smiled and patted her head. Don't be afraid. I'm fine. Life is still long. The palace was planning a grand celebration for the Empress Dowager's birthday, inviting officials' wives and noble ladies from the capital to celebrate together. Trevor Jenkins' sister-in-law was pregnant and staying home, so my mother-in-law had no choice but to bring me along. When these noble ladies and young misses from prominent families saw me, they had something to gossip about. The scholar's wife took a sip of wine and then lazily looked over. Madam Jenkins has been married for over a year. Still no good news? Madam Han, I replied with a faint smile. The censor's wife beside her sneered. Madam Jenkins is skilled at managing her household. Even if she doesn't have children, the family's prosperity can thrive elsewhere, can't it? The capital's officials' wives already had many criticisms about me taking 5 concubines into the household within a year. Hearing the censor's wife say this today, they couldn't help but laugh along with her. The censor's wife's womb is certainly capable. Since you're so fertile, why don't you bear a son for me? In a dozen years, I can take him out to battle for our imperial court. Vincent Lowe walked in from outside the hall, sneering. The censor's wife's face turned from white to green, then green to white. She lowered her head and said nothing more. The other ladies who had been laughing with her also sobered up and were no longer arrogant. The Empress Dowager, who was leading, saw him and smiled, greeting her grandson. You rascal, talking nonsense again. Come quickly and offer a toast to these aunties. All the prominent noble families and marquis estates in the capital had accumulated meritorious deeds, naturally making them somewhat related to the royal family. Vincent Lowe agreed and raised his wine cup. He looked at the people seated below. His gaze met mine, and then he walked over. I was afraid he would disregard the occasion and force me to drink with him again, and my heart began to pound. He stopped in front of my mother-in-law, raised his wine cup, and offered her a toast. After drinking, he glanced at me. So this is the lady your mother found for the second Master Jenkins, isn't it? Indeed, Lord. You were away on military campaign at the time and didn't come to our wedding banquet. Madam Jenkins is virtuous. Madam, you are fortunate. Vincent Lowe smiled, his expression as warm as spring, but his eyes held no warmth at all. I turned my face to the other side and spoke to someone else, forcibly resisting the urge to look at him more. The accumulated gloom of the past few days made me drink a few extra cups of wine. By the time others went to watch the play, I was already dizzy and had fallen behind the group. Alone, I turned left and right in the palace. The autumn wind had almost sobered me up, but I still couldn't find the right path. I lingered in the garden, sniffing the chrysanthemum fragrance for a long time. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore. Just as I was about to find a eunuch to ask for directions, my waist suddenly tightened. I was half-dragged, half-hugged, and pulled behind the rockery at the foot of the garden. I struggled frantically against the person holding me and looked up. It was Vincent Lowe. What are you doing? You didn't wait for me, just to live this life of being a harmonious wife and concubine, subservient to your mother-in-law? Vincent Lowe lightly lifted my chin, intentionally speaking close to my ear. His thin lips brushed my earlobe. almost imperceptibly, quickly sending a flush across my face. How could he be like this? I wanted to shrink back, but there was no more space to retreat, so I could only lower my head firmly. Vincent Lo snorted coldly above my head. So, your eyes, filled with infatuation for me, were all fake then? Or is it that you, Jiao Wan, fall in love with everyone you see? Hearing him say that, the mix of grievance and shame surged up again. I looked up and vigorously wiped away my tears. What do you mean I was fake? If you were sincere, why didn't you propose? His Majesty had intended for me to marry Princess Caroline before, but before I left for the campaign, he promised me that as long as I won that battle in the north, he would grant a marriage between us. Vincent Lo sighed. When I was fighting on the front lines, I kept thinking I needed to earn a noble title to make you happy. That hairpin I sent you was hollow. I put a marriage contract inside, just hoping you'd be happy if you accidentally found it. Hearing him say that, the grief in my heart intensified. One wrong move, and the whole game is lost. Vincent Lo caressed my face, using his index finger to wipe away my tears. He whispered, Jiao Wan, I'm late. Hearing him say that, my tears started flowing again. I broke down and pounded his chest. I waited for you. I truly waited for you. Vincent Lo embraced me. When I looked up at him again, he leaned down and kissed me. I didn't dodge, tilting my head back to respond to him. I embraced Vincent Lo's waist, as if we had returned to the past. In the vast world, there was only the young girl with a heart full of worries and the general who had given her a lantern. Vincent Lo led me along a secluded, deserted path back. As we walked, he listened to me explain what had happened. When he heard about the Earl of Longview's family scheming to marry me, his face turned terrifyingly cold. A moment later, his expression softened, and he lowered his head, saying, I will make them kneel before you and apologize. Now I only want to ask you one thing. Wanner, should we be together, away from Trevor Jenkins? I grasped Vincent Lo's hand and nodded firmly. By the time I found the Earl's carriage, the Countess was already drunk inside. She closed her eyes and, hearing me get in, didn't ask anything. She simply told the coachman to hurry back to the estate. After removing my makeup and hair ornaments, Trevor Jenkins suddenly pushed open the door and walked in. He placed a pile of hairpins and rouge on the table. My dear, I was wrong that day. I know your heart is troubled, but I'm willing to wait. As long as you truly give yourself to me, I'll do anything. Seeing that I ignored him, Trevor Jenkins left dejectedly, his head bowed. I looked at the things on the table. Yechen, take these out and distribute them to the young ladies in the courtyard. I secretly thought to myself that I would go home for the Mid-Autumn Festival. After discussing the divorce with my parents, I would bring it up with Trevor Jenkins. Now that the misunderstanding with Vincent Lo was resolved, I had to escape this false den of wolves no matter what. On the Mid-Autumn Festival, Trevor Jenkins and I returned to my family home together. My siblings and their spouses were present at the dinner. Throughout the day, I couldn't find a suitable moment to bring up the divorce with my parents. On the way back to the Earl's estate, I felt disheartened, my mind consumed with how to smoothly escape from the Earl's estate. Every Mid-Autumn Festival, there would be a lantern fair in the capital. Before midnight, everyone could carry lanterns and walk through the streets and alleys. Trevor Jenkins saw others enjoying the lanterns and, on a whim, wanted to buy one for me. I followed him to the stall and saw a lively and adorable koi lantern. Trevor Jenkins took the lantern he was holding, put it down, and instead, took a lotus lantern in his hand. He paid and then turned to me, saying, the lotus lantern is more dignified and elegant. It suits you better. I carried the lantern I didn't like and walked with Trevor Jenkins, feeling awkward, all the way home. Once inside the door, he was dragged away by his brother to play chess. Only then did I throw the lantern onto the porch outside the door. When I returned to my own courtyard, a softly glowing lantern hung at the entrance. I walked over and reached up to take it down. It was precisely that koi lantern from the stall earlier. In my heart, I thought it was Vincent Lo, but then I thought he wouldn't be so bold. I sat down in the room, suppressing a smile, and carefully examined the lantern in my hand. What's making the lady so happy? Vincent Lo's languid voice came from the rafters. The moment I looked up, he flipped down and stood properly in front of me. Why are you here? I was too startled to say anything, afraid of others seeing his shadow. I quickly blew out the candles in the room like a thief. You're so bold. If the censors find out, they'll surely impeach you. I pulled him to sit at the table and whispered. Vincent Lo wasn't afraid. He smiled, shaking the lantern in my hand, and asked if I liked it. I like it, I said. I like the person too. Vincent Lowe chuckled and pulled me onto his lap. Want to go look at the moon with me? I hesitated and shook my head. It's not convenient tonight. It wouldn't be good if someone found out I wasn't in my room. Then do you want to see it? Vincent Lowe leaned down close to me. Yes, I do. Hearing that, he picked me up. Then come with me. The courtyard was pitch black at that moment, with not a single person in sight. While I was still confused, Vincent Lowe picked me up into the air, scaled the high wall, and stood steadily in front of the carriage behind the house. Vincent Lowe pulled me in. He knocked on the carriage wall, and the carriage began to move steadily forward. We drove out of the city and towards the mountains in the suburbs. I nudged Vincent Lowe's palm. Are we going to the mountains to admire the moon? Vincent Lowe suddenly pressed his forehead against mine, blinking like a child. We can do that now too. As I watched him pull me into his arms, he rolled onto the carriage floor. I rolled down with him. He supported my head with his hand, looking up, following his words. I looked up and realized that the carriage roof actually had a window that could be propped open. The moon was directly above us. Silver moonlight poured in through the window, bathing us in a soft glow. Vincent Lowe lay beside me, propping his head with his left hand. Beautiful, beautiful. This is the first time I've seen the moon like this, and with Vincent Lowe too. My heart was both curious and happy. Vincent Lowe looked at me with burning eyes, his voice inexplicably tinged with tenderness under the moonlight. Looking at me or looking at the moon? Looking at you. Vincent Lowe laughed and leaned in to kiss me. I felt a rush of panic and heat beneath him. The carriage continued to rush forward without stopping. Vincent Lowe's face was gentle, but his movements were forceful and wild beneath me. I raised my hands to cover my eyes. This way, neither the moon nor I could see this absurd and unrestrained situation. By the time we returned to the truth behind the Earl's mansion, I was exhausted, my legs trembling. Vincent Lowe carried me back to my room. Before leaving, he kissed my hair. I'd bought the alley outside the wall and the house next to it. From now on, if you want to see me, I'll be there to meet you. I nodded and pulled the covers over me. I no longer had the energy to care if he would be discovered by others. The next day, when I saw Trevor Jenkins, his eyes were cold again. Seeing the scattered lotus lantern on the porch, I understood the source of his anger. Seeing that I refused to coax him, Trevor Jenkins threw down his chopsticks and walked out. Within half a day, the entire Earl's estate had spread the news of Trevor Jenkins' anger towards me. My mother-in-law, hearing this, again sent me to the ancestral hall to follow the rules. I found it amusing. I was clearly the one they had painstakingly deceived into coming here, yet they all felt they had suffered my ill treatment. I hadn't even knelt for a full day when my mother-in-law was summoned to the palace by the Empress Dowager. Yechin ran over to tell me that a wet nurse from my mother-in-law's room had taken a hairpin bestowed by the Empress Dowager to sell. She happened to be caught by a eunuch who had just come out of the palace after buying something. The Empress Dowager was furious when she heard about it, and was currently making my mother-in-law kneel in her palace to follow the rules. I rubbed my knees, secretly amused. Vincent Lowe's eyes truly were on me. The moment something happened to me, he immediately retaliated. As the new year approached, the emperor finally decided on the succession. The third prince was to be made crown prince. The investiture ceremony was to be completed before the New Year's Day. The Ministry of Rights, where Trevor Jenkins worked, became busy. As an official in the ministry, he was so busy that he was never seen. After discussing the divorce with my parents, I had already written the divorce papers, but with him so busy, I couldn't find an opportunity to give them to him. Vincent Lowe, surprisingly, became even clingier, seeking every opportunity to find me. As I draped myself over his shoulder, I happened to glance at the calligraphy hanging on the wall. The brushstrokes were both firm and soft, with a subtle sharpness hidden in the strokes. This piece of calligraphy was written by Trevor Jenkins just yesterday. Vincent Lowe breathed heavily by my ear, gripping my waist as he asked, "What are you looking at?" "The reeds are lush and green, the white dew is frost. The one I yearn for is on the other side of the water." The hands on my waist suddenly tightened. Vincent Lowe thrust deeper. He brushed against my thigh, leaving a hint of wetness, and kissed me, laughing. "The one I yearn for is on the other side of the water." My face flushed intensely, but I stubbornly glared at him. I hadn't learned much else from being with Vincent Lowe, but my courage had certainly grown. I didn't stop him from acting so wildly in the Earl's estate. He pressed his voice to comfort me. "Instead, you suffered such great grievances at Longview Estate that day. Now, they deserve this. Don't think too much about it. I nodded obediently. Today, for some reason, he was relentlessly tormenting me. I blushed and pushed his chest, about to tell him to stop, when I suddenly heard the crisp sound of porcelain outside. I signaled Vincent Lowe to be quiet, put on my clothes, and went out to see. I saw Dina, her face pale, standing by the wall. I wasn't flustered, only smiled and looked at her. Can you do me a favor? I'm going to divorce Trevor Jenkins in a few days. Dina shook her head, quickly walked up to me, and whispered, I didn't hear anything, madam. Don't worry. She patted my hand and turned to leave the courtyard. In the evening, Trevor Jenkins found some free time and had dinner with us. I wasn't strict about the concubines following rules. They could eat with us if they wished. Trevor Jenkins was eating when he suddenly put down his chopsticks and meticulously examined me. My dear, why is your neck red and bruised? I immediately pulled up my collar. Just as I was about to come up with an excuse, Dina, standing nearby, chuckled. The estate sent some homemade fruit wine. Last night, I pulled Madam into drinking with me. Madam drank too much and tripped over the threshold, pulling me down with her. Dina pulled up her sleeve. Her arm was also bruised. I'm afraid I'll need 3 to 5 days to recover as well. Trevor Jenkins nodded and said he had some golden wound medicine from the palace, urging us to be more careful next time. I sighed in relief and agreed with him. After dinner, I called out to Trevor Jenkins, who was heading to his study. I dismissed the servants and brought him into my room. These past few days, I've thought about it. I still don't have the heart to live with you. Let's divorce. Trevor Jenkins frowned as he took the divorce papers. He only read 2 lines before throwing the paper on the ground. Don't act on impulse. I know I've been a bit harsh with you lately, but I do care about you. As long as you're willing to soften, it's not because of that. I interrupted him. Marital fate cannot be forced or schemed for. Don't worry. I've discussed it with my family. As long as you agree to the divorce, my family will definitely continue to support the Earl's estate in the official circles in the future. Trevor Jenkins suddenly lost his temper. He smashed the teacup on the table at my feet. Divorce? You wish? What woman in this world doesn't marry? My family only used some means. Now that we're married, why are you so unforgiving? Seeing the shamelessness of the person in front of me, I knew that this matter would likely not be resolved today. I was too lazy to argue with him, walked around him, and headed outside. Trevor Jenkins continued to badger me from behind. I'm telling you, Zhao Wan, I'd rather bash my head against the steps of your Zhao family and make you a widow than divorce. Never. I packed my things and returned to my family home. My father and mother showed worried expressions when they heard Trevor Jenkins' words. My mother even raised her hand to wipe away tears. I originally thought the Countess was heartless, but I didn't expect her son to be even more shameless. If I had known that Trevor Jenkins was such an ungrateful person, I would rather have sent you to become a nun than marry him off to him. My mother's words suddenly enlightened me. If divorce was not an option, then I would become a nun at a temple. The next morning, the entire capital knew the news that Madame Jenkins, from Longview Estate, had gone mad and entered a Taoist temple. Some said I was a fallen immortal, whose cultivation in my previous life was insufficient, causing my mind to become disturbed now, and that I needed to cultivate diligently again. Rumors spread quickly. The Countess, who was particularly superstitious, sent a message to my family, saying that she had already arranged a room at the South Mountain Taoist temple and that I could move in myself. I only took Yechen with me into the Taoist temple. As long as I stood my ground against Trevor Jenkins for a few years, the Earl's estate, desperate for a child, would naturally be willing to divorce and marry again. That evening, after I had eaten my vegetarian meal in my room, Vincent Lowe walked in. He reached out to hug me, but I pushed his hand away. This is a Taoist temple. Be careful not to offend the venerable masters. Vincent Lowe smiled. I don't believe in such things. He pulled me into his arms and gently stroked my hair. We remained silent for a while. Suddenly, he laughed. What are you laughing at? Vincent Lowe poked his chin against my shoulder. I did genuinely pray to a god once. When the war in the north was at its most perilous, I heard the news of your marriage. I fought like a madman, attacking recklessly, desperately praying to the gods that it was just a rumor. My heart ached, and for a moment, I couldn't respond to him. Originally, I thought I'd wait for you to resolve things with the Earl's family and escape from them before settling scores. But now, I truly don't want to wait anymore. Vincent Lowe stayed with me in the temple for half a month until the Emperor ordered him to clear out bandits and displaced people from outside the city. Only then did he leave. Before leaving, he gripped my waist fiercely. I'm truly afraid that when I come back this time, you won't be here again. I patted his hand. Don't worry, I promise I won't go anywhere. I watched him right away, standing there for a long time before turning back to my room. As I pushed open the door, I saw Trevor Jenkins sitting in the room, his face dark. He pointed at the men's clothing on the rack and asked, gritting his teeth, "Whose is this?" I looked at him calmly and said nothing. Trevor Jenkins stared intently at my mouth, then walked over and grabbed my face. "Who kissed you? Since you've already seen it, let's divorce." Trevor Jenkins laughed hysterically until tears streamed down his face. Then he stopped. He fiercely slapped me. "Jiao Wan, have you no shame?" I raised my hand and slapped him back with equal force. "I do have shame. That's why I was manipulated by your Longview estate in the first place." He grabbed me, about to retaliate. Yechen frantically smashed the porcelain in the room at his feet. "If you dare lay a hand on my lady today, Master Zhao will never let you off." Trevor Jenkins, fuming, pushed open the door and stormed out. Soon after, a group of servants came in and tied me and Yechen up. We were veiled and taken back to the Earl's estate. Trevor Jenkins locked me in my room. "In a few days, I'll tell everyone outside that you're dead. You'll spend the rest of your life in this small room, not allowed to take a single step outside. You wouldn't dare. I advise you, my dear wife, to be more obedient now, otherwise, I have something even harsher waiting for you." Trevor Jenkins gave me a sinister look, then leaned down and whispered in my ear, "There are plenty of strong, newly hired guards in the estate. If you dare to act up again, your husband will have them attend to you." After his warning, Trevor Jenkins strode out, intentionally making the sound of the lock louder for me to hear. My hands and feet were bound, and I could only lie on the bed. Vincent Lowe's bandit suppression mission would take at least half a month to complete. Now, I could only hope that my mother would go to the temple soon and discover I was no longer there. Trevor Jenkins kept me bound for 2 days before loosening my restraints. He paced back and forth in front of me for the time it takes to brew half a cup of tea. Then he closed his eyes and turned his back to me. "Who is the adulterer?" I heard his voice trembling. I remained silent. The imperial censorate of today supervises the conduct of all officials. Those scholars particularly dislike arrogant military generals like Vincent Lowe. If Trevor Jenkins found out the person was Vincent Lowe, the Earl's estate would definitely collude with the censorate to severely impeach him. I remained silent in response to Trevor Jenkins. Seeing my silence, he erupted again. "Who is the adulterer? You're about to lose everything, and you're still protecting him? You don't need to know who he is. You just need to know that he's 1,000, 10,000 times better than you." Trevor Jenkins raised his hand to hit me again. Just then, a young servant ran in, wailing, "Master, the Marquis of Redfield has come to our gate. The Grand Madam has been hung in the main hall. Please go quickly and see." When I heard that Vincent Lowe had arrived, my eyes involuntarily brightened. Trevor Jenkins fiercely gripped my neck. "It's him, isn't it?" The servant who came to report couldn't help but speak again. "Master, please go to the front first. The Grand Madam's safety is more important." Trevor Jenkins angrily let go of me and walked out. As he left, he didn't forget to have the door locked. I hid inside, full of worry, afraid that Vincent Lowe might actually cause a death, afraid that he would be implicated and punished for this matter. The door suddenly opened. Dina and another concubine, Mia, squeezed through the crack in the door, one after the other. "I'm surprised. How did you get in?" "The master has been frequenting this side courtyard these past few days. I just felt something was off. Yesterday, I secretly bribed the gatekeeper, and only then did I find out that the lady was imprisoned here." Mia took my hand, sympathetically caressing the rope marks on my wrists. "How did you get in?" "Trevor Jenkins is keeping a tight guard now. Be careful not to get yourselves implicated." "Madam, have you forgotten my father is a master locksmith?" Dina blinked. "Please leave quickly. All the servants and houseboys in the mansion have gone to the front hall to watch now." After changing me into a maid's dress, Mia pushed me out the door, whispering in my ear, "I was the one who found the Marquis. He has a carriage waiting at the back gate. Just go straight there." "Madam." I held back my tears, thanked them, and walked towards the front hall. I was worried about Vincent, and I had to see him with my own eyes to be at ease. I reached the front hall. The servants and houseboys were all knocked out on the ground. Several guards were holding long staffs, protecting Trevor Jenkins. The Countess was still hanging from the beam, loudly cursing, "Vincent Lowe is a bastard. Vincent Lowe sat in the main seat in the hall, hearing her curses. He merely smiled slightly. It seems Grand Madam Trevor hasn't quite figured it out yet. Since that's the case, I'll trouble you to think about it a little longer up there. Trevor Jenkins' face darkened. Don't go too far. This is going too far? I merely had a friendly spar with a few servants at the Earl's estate. Don't overthink it. Then how did my mother get up there? It seems your esteemed mother is agile and refuses to acknowledge her age. This Marquis advised her not to climb up, but she insisted on swinging from the rafters. What concern is that of mine? Vincent Lowe raised his hand. The servant standing beneath the Countess reached out and pushed her. She swung back and forth on the beam again. Trevor Jenkins was so angry that he trembled. He pointed at Vincent Lowe, sputtering for a long time, unable to utter another curse. I walked in from the side and stood behind Vincent Lowe, tugging at his sleeve. All right, let's go back. Seeing me, the mockery in Vincent Lowe's eyes instantly vanished. He looked at my flushed face with concern. He reached out to touch it. I'm late again. I gently shook my head. Trevor Jenkins, seeing us like this, suddenly pushed away the guards in front of him. Fine, since you two have no shame, why should I hide it for you? Vincent Lowe, you seduced my wife and assaulted an official. You wait. I'll make you kneel and apologize. Vincent Lowe walked closer, his face showing a hint of amusement. He kicked Trevor Jenkins, sending him sprawling. All right, I'll be waiting. With that, he took my hand and led me out. As we reached the main gate, he turned back to the people in the hall. You all are welcome to report me to the Emperor today. Vincent Lowe will be waiting for your reckoning at my estate. Trevor Jenkins was filled with rage and hatred. His face beat red. Vincent Lowe opened his umbrella to shield me and led me all the way back to the Marquis' estate. Trevor Jenkins had spread the news 2 days ago that I had died. A dead person couldn't return to her family home. Vincent Lowe meticulously applied medicine to my face. Though a man constantly in the military, his hands were so gentle. I barely felt any pain before he had finished applying the medicine. I won't let the Earl of Longview's family get away with this. How dare they humiliate you like this? He massaged my hand, his brows furrowed with both resentment and tenderness. To escape from a pack of wolves, one must get a few scratches, right? I smiled. It's my fault for only knowing how to manage a household and not how to scheme against people's hearts. That's why they got the better of me. I often regret it. If only I had brought you back to marry me that year, how wonderful it would have been. Vincent Lowe lowered his head apologetically. I thought about the panicked citizens in the capital waiting to be protected. I thought about the Emperor's prestige, and my own reputation and righteousness. The only thing I didn't think about was giving you stability sooner. I blamed you, resented you for only being interested in me for a fleeting moment. But since you gave me this, I no longer resent you. I broke the ugly wooden hairpin Vincent Lowe had given me. A thin piece of paper fell out. 2 families united in marriage, a bond formed in one hall, a good match, a perfect pairing. See this day, peach blossoms blooming, suitable for home and family. May future years bring forth abundant descendants, flourishing and prosperous. With this vow of white hair, recorded on paper, may this red leaf alliance be inscribed in the Mandarin Duck Registry. His eyes red, he held me tightly in his arms, his hands on my waist trembling slightly. I sighed and rubbed my face against his neck. It's all right, Vincent Lowe. It's not too late now. Before the Earl of Longview's impeachment reached the Emperor, their family was already raided. The Countess had privately bribed officials, indulged her brother in encroaching on farmers' land, and abducted young women. Trevor Jenkins' scholarly title was even obtained by usurping someone else's examination paper. He prided himself on his self-portraits and paintings, but in reality, he was an incompetent fool. All their misdeeds were brought to light. The Emperor was furious and exiled their entire family to Lingnan after confiscating their property. I received this news just as Vincent Lowe returned, covered in dust. From outside, he leaned against the doorframe, raising an eyebrow at me. I'll always keep my promises to you. My mother brought me back home. After consulting with my father, she gave me a new name. To the outside world, they simply said I was a daughter adopted from a side branch. That way, when I went to the frontier town with Vincent Lowe in the future, I wouldn't be recognized by others. Another late autumn arrived. I sat in a large red sedan chair, leaving my home. The journey continued until we reached the front tower. Vincent Lowe, adorned with a red ribbon, waited for me there. After all the trials and tribulations, I finally married the general who had come galloping into my life. The end.